We continue to speak to the biggest names in the financial world here on Dukascopy TV. This time I am joined by Alain Branchy, who is the Senior Director of the Financial Institutions Group at Fitch. French banks have come under intense scrutiny because of their exposure to sovereign debt from the so-called PIGS nations. At one point in the summer, the three biggest banks saw their share price drop by double digits in a single day. Alain, thanks for talking to me. Christian Noyer said on Tuesday that Greek debt poses no great threat because the amount is less than this year's first half profits of banks in France. Is this too simplistic?
No, I wouldn't say that it's too simplistic a view. Actually, in our report that we published in May of this year, we said actually the same thing. We said that Fitch does not envisage any rating action on the French banks purely as a result of their direct exposure to Greek risk. So I think that we would agree with that. A lot of the comments or the concern in the press and in the market has been that if Greece has problems, then perhaps other countries can have problems. So I don't think it's Greek debt per se.
So if there is a 50% haircut of Greek debt, this won't cause any major problems?
No, absolutely not. I think we have to highlight for Greece is that there are two things. There's direct exposure to Greece, so in terms of Greek debt, and that is, as we just said, completely absorbable through profits. A write-down is absorbable through profits. But we also have certain banks, in particular Crédit Agricole and Société Générale, that have subsidiaries in these countries, in Greece, and so they've got loans. They've got a subsidiary that has loans in those markets, and if the economy is not doing well, there could be impairments on the loan book. In the same report that we published in May, we also said that should be manageable, but that adds another level. So you've got the Greek debt, you've got subsidiaries of some certain banks in those countries, and you've got exposure to other GIPS countries, so Greece, Ireland, Italy, Portugal, and Spain. And so when you put it all together, there are a number of layers that get added together, and it's not just one thing that weighs on the banks. It's when you look at it all together. So in our action that we came out with when we put the banks on rating watch negative, first of all, it was not just the French banks. It was the French banks as part of a wider exercise of European and even international banks. And it was just a rating watch. So we were saying, okay, there are a number of headwinds that banks are facing. We want to have a look at it, and there could be negative rating pressure.
Do you think the focus and scrutiny of French banks has been unfair?
Some comments in the press have been exaggerated. I know for a fact that certain comments have been wrong. For example, I saw a rumor going around during the summer that Fitch was planning on downgrading the French sovereign. Now, we work at Fitch, so we know that that's not true. So I know for a fact that there are certain things that have been circulated that are just wrong. I know that there are things that have been circulating that are wrong, perhaps things that have been exaggerated, but there are also some fundamental issues. And what we try to do with Fitch is rate based on the fundamental issues. And so there is a significant exposure to the GIBS, and funding and liquidity are tighter than before, and capital is, I think, something the market is asking for more than in the past, more sooner rather than later, I think is a better way of phrasing it.
Let's talk about the French sovereign rating. Is there any sign from within Fitch the sovereign rating could be put on negative watch as well?
We try to look at our ratings all the time. If we thought, for example, on the French banks, we put it on watch, and then to give us time to analyze it. If there was a real serious reflection within Fitch, we could also put the sovereign on. We put the banks on rating watch negative. It is possible to put the sovereign on rating watch negative. That has not been the case. We came out with recent affirmations on the French sovereign. So, we try to alert the market as much as possible, not only with the ratings, but also an indication of the way we're thinking. There are outlooks which are kind of long-term, and then there are rating watches which indicate a shorter time horizon. And there's nothing that's come out yet on France.
Are French banks in need of recapitalisation?
We think the large French banks' capital ratios will be able to rise over time through earnings retention and other balance sheet measures, such as, which have been announced by the major French banks, reduction in risk-weighted assets. So you've got the numerator, which is an increase in capital, which can come through earnings retention, and the denominator, which is risk-weighted assets, which could also be managed down. And we do think that banks, we expect the banks to do that over time. The question is, will there be market or regulatory or supranational pressures? I think that's the limit between the fundamental analysis and market and regulatory pressure. So it's almost political. It's difficult for us to comment on that.
And just to finish off, the markets turned very bearish on Crédit Agricole, BNP Paribas and Société Générale in the summer. Would you say the balance sheets of those banks are relatively strong compared to others in Europe and the US?
The ratings we have on those banks, so we have very high ratings. We have on BNP, Crédit Agricole, we have a AA-, which is a very high rating, AAA being the highest, so that's the fourth highest rating in our rating scale, and Société Générale is at an A+ level. So even if we have them on Rating Watch negative, we said that we do not expect more than a one-notch downgrade. Even if there were a downgrade, they would be still very high ratings.
Alain Bronchy there, joining me from the Paris offices of Fitch. We'll keep the quality interviews coming here on Dukascopy TV, and amongst Thursday's guests will be David Jones from IG Markets to speak about gold. But for now, goodbye.